All right, we are live. Going to talk a little bit Star Wars here. Talk Andor episode 7. Welcome as always, my co-host Josh Nelson from Sox Machine. Josh, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. Big surprise, as we're both White Sox fans. Jake Berger, big fan of Andor.
Really?
He ranks Andor ahead of The Mandalorian and Boba Fett. So out of those three, I'm still Mandalorian 1. Andor is now firmly number 2. I think it's better than Boba Fett so far, but it was a surprise that the White Sox, one of the White Sox players, has Andor ahead of The Mandalorian. What say you, Chirizi, after 7 episodes?
I really like this. I don't think that it is as good as those others. I'd say it's Mandalorian I would have first.
Mm-hmm.
I think I need to see a little bit more of this to know where it ranks with Obi-Wan. I think Boba Fett is basically part of the Mandalorian, but I would rank it the lowest because it's just like kind of like a interlude kind of season. That's interesting about Berger though, and I'm wondering how much that exists in his age group, because probably as a teenager or like late teens, maybe early 20s would have been Rogue One for him.
Okay.
And that might be the most impactful movie for him out of Star Wars, because that's something that, like the prequels, he was probably a kid. It leads up to Rogue One. Rogue One is an incredible movie.
Yes.
And so if that's your favorite movie out of the Star Wars franchise, because he didn't grow up with the really good ones. So this was maybe, if that's like your favorite movie, this would be incredible.
You know what? We're just gonna have to invite him on the show, Chirizi. We're gonna have to reach out and just have a Star Wars conversation with Jake Berger.
I would love to do that. I think we need to make that happen.
Yeah. No White Sox questions, Jake. This is purely Star Wars.
This is all Star Wars.
And we will be judging you. No. I just thought that was he tweeted it out and it got me thinking, and I did respond that I still have Mandalorian ahead, but after episode 7 with Andor, we knew this going into it, and we talked about it in our first podcast episode, recapping the first 3 episodes, Chirizi, that we're going to get a different point of view from a Star Wars perspective, especially life under the Empire. And in this episode, we got a huge glimpse of what life and the retaliation of the Empire since the robbery during the Eye event. And I think it is needed for Star Wars. Again, everyone was asking, why do we need an Andor series? And I'm going to keep saying this after every episode. I think they're proving it why this is incredibly useful, because in live action here, it's going to open up to the fans on just how terrible life was under the Empire and make you root harder for Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia and Han Solo to defeat the Empire in the original trilogy movies, especially for those that did not watch Clone Wars or Star Wars Rebels.
Or if you're me, you're watching it going, finally, they're showing how the Empire puts things in order and makes things right. But it's funny, Josh, we talked last week and we were both like, what is an interstitial episode? Yeah. Like, what was Tony Gilroy talking about? And we saw it this week. They've set up the second half of the series with this. It's a turning point episode, I would say. But let's start with talking about Andor himself, what he went and did. So I just want to ask you a question here to start this off. How did this guy, he's not a dummy, right? He doesn't seem like an idiot. How did he think that he was just going to go and blend in with the rest of the world and somehow live off 200,000 credits for the rest of his life?
He just got cocky. I think that's what happened here with Cassian, that he got away with it. I mean, him robbing a garrison, he should have been caught or he should be dead. So he is, in his mind, playing with house money, 200,000 credits worth of house money, but he's playing with house money. So as long as he lays low and he doesn't draw attention to himself, he'll be fine. And he thought he was playing it safe. he should have just stopped and maybe got out of the way of those that were running instead of continued to walk at the pace that he was at. That's the mistake that he made. He didn't do a good enough job blending in with the beach crowd.
It's so wild to me that he would make that mistake. Like any of it, when you get the flashbacks in this episode of what happened to his father, right? Like exactly what happens to him is what happened to his father. Like kind of wrong place, wrong time, just trying to blend in, trying to not be an agitator of any sort. And yeah, you get messed up for it. And that's what's happening here. And it's all part of, you know, they referred to it earlier in the episode when Wolf Yularen, shout out to Yularen. I'm actually drinking a Death Star because that's where Yularen dies. Spoiler alert, he dies in he's one of the guys on the Death Star when that other dude's getting choked. This is them tightening their grip. Like, you know, he says, how tight are we going to make our grip? And you're seeing it here. I mean, pun intended, even. Cassian goes to jail for 6 years for really doing nothing. And it harkens back to, you know, like real life, you know, when you think of like after there's, you know, terrorist attacks or things like that, the laws that come into place, like the Patriot Act is a good example of kind of they're definitely kind of reflecting that here in an extreme fashion. But like that's the kind of thing that it happens and you're like, okay, well, I guess we need to put these laws in place because of this thing. And then after a while you're like, I don't like this. I don't like being surveilled like this. And that's exactly kind of what we're seeing here.
Yeah, the sentence is harsh. I mean, that whole exchange with the judge where she looks to, I'm assuming it's some type of guard. It'd be like, you know, the sentence used to be just 6 months. Swipe 6 years. Royally screwed over. And he didn't do anything wrong. And it makes me wonder in the next episode, like, and I had this feeling that Luthen is going to find out that Cassian is in the system because he's being hunted by Val. And that, I think we're going to talk about that whole situation, a conversation, because I thought that was pretty interesting in this episode. But I think this also sets the path on how Cassian will always owe Luthen. But after he has been treated this way, maybe he'll start taking that manifesto more seriously.
Yeah, I think, you know, I think he's going to be the first of kind of everybody to like really wake up from the new rules, right? Like I think people were woken up by what they're calling the announcement. I love the term that they're using for this, and Dedra uses it first, and that's the name of the episode. But the robbery is an announcement to people, and it wakes Marva up, right? It's crazy to me. It's like I feel terrible for Marva in this scene because like when she's telling Cassian to go and you have a different path and all this, she never really realizes that her son is the hero that she's talking about when she talks about what's woken her up. So yeah, I think that's all interesting. I love the 4 months that the dude gets before him for walking his dog without a leash, basically. And I think, but you're right. Cassian is going to see now. There's no escaping this. I have to be part of this. And I'm wondering who he's going to meet in prison. Because I don't know if it's going to be Luthen that gets him out or if he's going to find his way out. Spoiler alert, he finds his way out because he can't serve a 6-year sentence. In 5 years, he is Ash. So there's no way he'd serve the term. So he's definitely going to get out. I'm wondering if it's Luthen who gets him out, if it's Val who gets him out, or if he meets someone in prison, possibly someone from the Partisans. Now, I don't know why they're hanging out in Tony Montana's planet, which apparently like they just like decided like this, well, best place for this, Miami. It just looks straight like Miami. It's even named something similar to Miami. It was kind of an interesting choice there. But yeah, I wonder who he's gonna meet. Who would you think maybe he meets in prison?
We keep suggesting this, and I'm wondering if there's going to be like a prison break. Is this where Saw Gerrera and his clan show up to break out someone that's part of his team, but Cassian decides to tag along?
You know, that would harken back to them breaking out in Jeddah and then grabbing the pilot along with them, who becomes a very important figure in Rogue One. Yeah, that would be something. Like if Two Tubes is in there and they got to break him out, and Cassian just happens to be in the cell with him, you know, that'd be a lot of fun.
But now, just thinking about it, in Rogue One, does he recognize Saw Gerrera?
I don't think they're never face to face. I don't think.
That's a good point.
No. They are, right? Because he comes and gets Jyn Erso. Jyn. So yeah. He sees him. They have to have known each other. Like there has to be some kind of connection there, because they talk about Saw quite a bit in the movie and his extremist views.
Mm-hmm. I bring this up because continuity is important here, and you have to be conscious of it when doing Andor, because obviously everything leads up to Rogue One. So I'm trying to remember if they were strangers when they met in Rogue One, because if they were strangers in Rogue One, then my prediction is wrong.
But I don't think they are. I think he wasn't taken aback by Saw when he came in there. But also, it's weird that Saw would have him in prison. But it could be anyone, though. Like, there's so many sects. I just don't want to have it be someone like too ridiculous, right? And I don't think Tony Gilroy would do that. Like, I don't want like Chewbacca to be in there with him. You know, like I don't want anything like that. But I would, right? Yeah. I mean, as much as I want to see Donald Glover in literally everything, I don't need him here. But yeah, so I think that's going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye on. Another interesting thing to keep an eye on, Josh, is our guy Syril Karn. All right, this guy has such a mundane life now that it has to be building towards something. So what's going to happen with Syril Karn, Josh? What are you thinking goes on with this guy?
First of all, I'm not a big fan of open work environments, especially since working from home the last couple of years. And this is too open. This workspace, too open for me. I don't know about you. I do my best working in an office. Here it's just too open here. I'd be really uncomfortable.
Okay, since we're gonna talk about this, I got to bring something up, man. The technology in Star Wars is out of this world, right? I mean, like, they got spaceships, they got lightsabers, they got all of this shit. The two things they have that are terrible: computers and chairs. They're running DOS on this thing, man. And then I haven't seen a goddamn comfortable chair in the entire Star Wars universe, man. They all look like this thing. And even the Emperor has dude, you have all of the money. You have the worst chairs, just the absolute worst chairs. It's unbelievable to me. And I'm sorry to go off on this rant, but I'm looking at Cyril's workspace and like my back hurts just thinking about his job.
Yeah, so I think what will end up happening, and we have seen this in other Star Wars material, is that the Empire is going to be having another recruiting spree. And I think this is where our boy Syril is going to apply to be part of the Empire, to go from the private sector and join the army. And because he follows orders so well, he may be an officer towards the end of season 2 of Andor. And we view on how the Empire recruits people to be in their army, how they promote within the army, and how they could rise to the ranks. We're getting a little bit of this bureaucracy and the feuding in this particular episode, and I think we'll touch on that later in this podcast episode. But through Syril, I think we're going to learn and just how the Empire with their propaganda machine recruits people to join their force, and how life is under the Empire as a soldier and how they climb up the ranks.
I like that. And I do think he ends up somewhere in the Empire. I'm starting to think ISB. I think that's maybe where he ends up. And here's the thing, Josh. I've been trying to figure out where Syril Karn is for like ever since he left that place.
And we have no clues, right? There's
a clue in this episode, and I'm almost positive of where he is now. So the place that he came into when he's like leaving, or when he's coming home, that like big like airport looking thing that he walks into is exactly where Luthen's assistant walks through. So it's the same place. I went back and like double checked to make sure that because it looked exactly the same. I'm almost positive it's the same place, which makes me think he's on Coruscant.
Oh,
he is now in charge of fuel purity. Apparently that's what he's well, he's not in charge of it, but he's looking at it. They made a point of talking about how Luthen's ship could go into hyperspace despite the type of ship that it was, right? So he's got to be using coaxium to do that. I think Syril starts to see the illegal trafficking of fuel that Luthen has in place, and that gets Dedra's attention. And I think that those two end up working together at some point in this series.
I love it. Fuel audit. That's what busts Luthen.
The
audit.
It's we were talking about this on the 108 podcast the other day. You know, like I think it was maybe before we were just talking about it. It's just like the IRS always gets you. Like that's how like all these criminals get caught. It's the IRS. It's gonna be something mundane like that in this. Like fuel purity is what almost brings down the rebellion at its start.
Yeah, the cartels don't fear the DEA; they fear the IRS.
Exactly. All right, so I think there's a lot going on with Syril, and I think it's going to butt up against Luthen and Mon Mothma because I'm pretty sure now that he's on Coruscant, and that the access that he has to this data is going to be provided meaningful in some way. So they would like otherwise, actually, I'll say this: it would be awesome if Tony Gilroy just threw us all for a curve and like nothing happens with Syril. He just has a miserable life. Like, you're just checking in on the most mundane person in the galaxy. There's no other story about him. But yeah, I think something will happen, and it'll butt up with these two, which is Mon Mothma and Luthen Rail are ratcheting up the rebellion at this point. And I love this line: "There will be no rules going forward." They are going in two different directions, and I love it. I love Luthen because he's a maniac. Like he's the ability to switch on and off between laughter and all this stuff is maniacal enough. But then when you start to see his plans, I'm just loving where it's going. What do you think about this especially this scene, Josh?
Yeah, with this scene and this interaction, it reminds me on the way that a lot of rebels view Saw Gerrera, that he was too radical. And we got that point of view from Mon Mothma in Rogue One. And I don't know if Luthen is on the same level as Saw Gerrera, but he is going down a path that Mon Mothma does not want to follow. It's too risky for her. It could possibly expose her, and if she gets exposed, then her entire life crashes down, and maybe all of everything that they're working on comes crashing down. But it just shows on how much risk Luthen is willing to take with these types of missions and how far he's willing to go. And even though Mon Mothma wants to start this rebellion, she's not quite there yet. So the question is, how does she get there? And I don't know if she really truly gets there, Cherizi, until Rogue One, where she's pleasantly surprised that the ragtag team decided to go after the Death Star plans. And she talks to Bail Organa. That might be when she decides to go all in, and then she obviously gives a speech in New Hope to attack the Death Star. So I think this kind of shows the dichotomy on where these two supposedly partners are at with their strategy of creating the rebellion. Luthen believes they're ready and they're going to start with these types of missions, and Mon Mothma doesn't believe they are ready and it is too risky. So we'll see if Luthen's actions burn them soon, Cherizi.
This seems to be, to me, the only interaction of this show so far that makes me think that Luthen might actually still be alive at the time of Rogue One. And the reason being is, you brought it up, he's going down the Saw Gerrera path. He's very much going down that path. And these two will not stay on the same plane very long. It's definitely going away from that, especially the fact that she mentions there's going to be suffering and he says it's the plan. And he's absolutely right here. Like, they have to force the hand of the Empire. Dedra sees it. She understands it for herself too, that like they're forcing our hand. They're making us go above and beyond on this. And that's how the rebellion's going to sprawl. And the kind of deciding point in Mon Mothma's career, which is later on, it's not going to show up in this show, or it might in season 2. But there's when she leaves in Rebels, it's due to the Gorman massacre. With what Luthen has put in play, with what he's doing, I think that she will at least somewhat blame him for things like that. And so I do not see them working together very long. I did want to bring up a different thing though with Mon Mothma. I'm watching the episode and they're having the party. A great scene with her talking to her childhood friend who she's going to have, help her out with kind of laundering money, basically. I mean, laundering her own money, so it's just kind of weird. But yeah, and she mentions to not trust Perrin, which is her husband. And I laughed to myself a little bit because I don't think this comes out of a feeling of, I don't trust this guy. I think that he's working with the Empire or anything like that. I think he is basically the Fredo of this story. Like, he will do something dumb to put the pressure on Mon unintentionally. Like, he's just a goofy drunk idiot. Like, I just feel like that's what role he's gonna play. It feels so much like Fredo, where he's like, I thought they just wanted to talk to you, right? And he's gonna tell like Sly Moore or somebody that like, oh man, my wife is spending so much time with this banker who keeps bringing her money, like something that stupid feels like it's gonna come from Perrin.
Isn't Fredo the one? It's like, I'm smart. Like, he delivers that line thing at Godfather
yes,
too.
Which is one of my favorite memes of all time. The motivational poster where it's like Fredo Corleone. He was smart, not dumb, like everybody says. Like, that's we could just put Perrin into that right now. I feel like that's exactly where he's going to end up.
I think with Perrin, he obviously profits from the Empire.
Oh,
so why ruin that? And yeah, you're gonna get into a situation here where maybe their marriage is just a guise for Mon Mothma to make it seem that she has an open heart to the separatists and she sympathizes with the general public and the trying to prevent as much Empire overreach as possible. But she's still on our side because she's married to this guy, where that could just be hiding in plain sight type of disguise. I don't know if I'll go that far that he's an idiot, but I think he will eventually start catching on to the clues. And I wonder, because I don't think this is a great marriage, if it's between her and his fortune, he's going to protect his fortune.
Oh, yeah. Like this, I mean, like this dude just wants to party and live the life that he's got. He don't want to be on the run or anything with Mon. He's not down for that. Yeah, I mean, but so we've got that going on, right? And then Mon is also trying to fund the rebellion, working with Tay. You know, what did you think about that interaction? Because that seems to be something that's was a really cool interaction. But then another question on top of that one is she mentions only 3 other people know this. And so we know that Luthen and his assistant are 2.
Yes.
Who's the 3rd?
Because she's speaking to Tay. I thought he was the 3rd.
I'm pretty sure she says only 3 other people.
Oh, then I don't know.
Because like I could, the only one that I could think of that's obvious would be Bail Organa, but I'm still not convinced that he knows anything about this yet. It'd be awesome if it was just Admiral Akbar. Like for some reason, Admiral Akbar knows about this. He's down. He's been down from the beginning.
Of course, yeah.
That's actually why Perrin's mad, because he knows that Mon Mothma has been sleeping with Admiral Akbar on the side. That's
crawfish.
That's why. Yeah. I mean, he's Mon Calamari, so I'm guessing he's squid of some sort. Hey, you know, to each their own. To each their own.
Yes. That's interesting. I don't know. His reaction, because it's obvious that he's confiding into her that he's not fond of the Empire, and he's probably breaking laws to defy the Empire. And now he's learning that, well, my best friend, who's a senator, is now trying to defy the Empire. This could get really serious real quick. And again, he's a banker, so how much risk is he willing to take on?
Exactly. And that's kind of where I'm a little like they brought this guy in, and he doesn't have enough power to really kind of do much other than launder her money. And it just feels like this guy's going to die. Like, or this guy's going to be interrogated by the ISB in like the most painful way that you could think of. Like, I don't see a good ending for this dude. I would love to find out that, hey, it's just, this is how she funnels her money, and then we don't have to think about it anymore. But probably very bad things are going to happen to this guy.
Probably. Probably.
Speaking of the people that will be doing these bad things, we got to get to Dedra. And by the way, I don't ever want to be yelled at by someone that can put the stern look on her face like Dedra. Like when she walks into that dude's office and he's like kind of sleeping, like never. I don't want to be in that situation ever. It looked awful to me. But she makes this claim that she can now prove a link between the theft of our most secret equipment. And so, Josh, what does she actually know? What do you think that she has found? What, like, in her research? Now, I mean, like, I don't know what this new law, like how much reach it gives them into things, but it seems like she's found something and she's willing to go up on it. Like, what do you think's going on there?
That's a good question. I don't know. My guess is, does it have to do with the hyperspace? Because there's going to be this hyperspace lane audit that guy owes in the morning. Is that a clue that the show gives that's how they could get tracked?
It might be, right. It just seems like they're going towards a scenario of there are like ships out there that are going through hyperspace that should not be. Right, like you think about things like the Millennium Falcon, right? It's like a freighter, right? But they customize it and they do all like, I mean, like basically the world of Star Wars has a ton of like retrofitted ships that become either like really fast or become like warships or things like that. And that is huge in the on the Rebel side. Is I'm thinking maybe they're going that way. Like they're saying we're finding these stolen pieces, and how we're connecting this all together is that now these ships are showing up that can do a lot of things that they shouldn't be able to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's maybe how you tie in Syril Karn too.
Oh, with the fuel purity. Okay, I see where you're going with this. Yes. So maybe that is the clue, because for those that are like just getting into Star Wars or maybe even watch Rebels, this is kind of the genius of Grand Admiral Thrawn, is that the hyperspace lanes under the Empire are very much like highways, and they can be monitored. And I know in Star Wars, they make it seem like as long as you do the calculations, you can jump to light speed wherever you are. And that's kind of true. But the hyperspace lanes are proven safe lanes of traffic in space. So you don't jump into light speed going into an asteroid or a planet. So they're highly monitored. You can create a blockade on the hyperspace lanes, which is something that I'm wondering if our pals are going to run into during this show, because it was something that was very common in Rebels. And it was a great way to create choke points for Grand Admiral Thrawn during the Star Wars Rebels series. So back again to the whole theory of it's not going to be the FBI that catches the rebels. It's going to be the IRS. Here you go, using fuel purity. And this is so, when you write it on paper and you pitch a TV show to Lucasfilm executives, like, our good guys have to outrun the IRS. Not a very exciting show on paper, but this is where you can create chase scenes and conspiracies and try to hide in plain sight, which always makes for great riveting television. So I'm wondering if that is the clue that they gave us, Treasy.
I kind of hope it is, because I hope that they show something that I don't know if they've actually shown this in the movies. I know it exists in the books, and you mentioned Thrawn, and this technology, I believe, comes from the initially, like, whatever they call on, like, the chaos where Thrawn's planet is, where they can just like rip you out of hyperspace. Like they have ships that will like get right next to hyperspace, and like when you're coming through, just yank you out. And like I would love to see that in a live action show. And so if this is going down that path, if we're right about like kind of where this is going, I would love to see that introduced into this.
That would be cool. And that would obviously be a great mission for the rebels, that they would have to destroy that technology. Much like Rebels trying to destroy the TIE fighters that had shields.
Yeah, those, oh man. What are they? The TIE, is it TIE Defenders? Those,
yeah, the TIE Defenders.
If Thrawn could have got those going, man, yeah, he would have been all set. Like, I think that's a great separate topic that we should cover sometime, is like how dumb the Empire was to build these huge Death Stars instead of the things that Thrawn was trying to do. But so I think, at this point, we got a few things coming up that I think will be interesting in the next 3 episodes, because this is going to be another 3-episode arc for those of you who are wondering how the series sets up from here. There's 8, 9, 10 is going to be an arc, and then 11 and 12 is basically like a 2-part finale. So the next 3 episodes, I assume we're going to see Cassian in prison, because he's supposed to be there for a long time. We're going to see what happens with Syril Karn, and we're going to see like Dedra's information and how she's tracking the rebels, and then how Mon and Luthen work with each other moving forward, and how extreme Luthen is willing to go. And I think in the next 3 episodes, we should see pretty much all of that stuff, and it'll come to a head leading us into those last 2 episodes. Josh, are you like, is there a storyline that is like grabbing your attention? This is the one I'm most interested in, or one that's maybe a side story that is you want to see the completion of.
So the assistant for Luthen, she must have her own agenda as well in helping build this rebellion. Maybe she notices that Cassian has found the soft spot for Luthen, and Cassian is unreliable. So she must do what's best for Luthen and take out Cassian. So that is going to create some conflict within this group of rebels. And I'm interested to see on how this gets played out.
That's a great point, man. If Cassian has to kill her, or he has to kill Vel, like how that sits with Luthen. And maybe this is how we don't know about Luthen. We know about Mon Mothma, right? I mean, like there's some kind of split there for Cassian too. So it's going to be interesting to see that exact storyline is going to be kind of one of the most important, I think. And that's a great point. For me, I want to know what's going on with Cinta, man. What's going? She's just out there sitting on a speeder watching a Star Destroyer fly in. Like that's all they gave you. Like I did. Yep. There's got to be something else going on. So, she's as it was said, she's doing what she was told. I still don't get what that means. So that is one that I want to see get kind of wrapped up.
Oh, light bulb. What if Cassian runs into Cinta in prison?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, so interesting. That's a really good one, because when Luthen's listening to that broadcast before Mon Mothma comes up, they say that 134 Aldani were imprisoned because or were taken into custody or whatever. So it's possible that she got locked up. And yeah, that'd be something. Prison fight with Cassian and Cinta. I'm all over it. Well, Josh, I think we'll end it there. It was a very interesting episode. It's definitely setting up the second half of the season, and I'm looking forward to where this goes. It's crazy to be looking at a show where we know how this all ends, and it's just still extremely interesting to see what's going to happen next. So, Josh, thanks for jumping on, and everyone, thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Bye.